my honor to present to you Dr. Maria Klawe, renowned computer scientist and tireless advocate for women and minorities pursuing careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Dr. Klawe is a national thought leader on women in STEM fields and has made significant contributions in the areas of mathematics and computer science. She earned 2 degrees in mathematics at the University of Alberta before pursuing graduate studies in computer science at the University of Toronto. Recognizing the ongoing barriers to women in her chosen academic disciplines, she is an active member in numerous organizations promoting women and leadership in STEM fields. Currently, Dr. Klawe is president of the prestigious Harvey Mudd College in Claremont, California. She sits on the board of directors for Math for America, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting math and science teachers across the United States. Dr. Klawe's distinguished career includes research and management work at IBM, as well as professorships at Oakland University and University of Toronto. She served as Vice President of Student and Academic Services at the University of British Columbia and as Dean of Engineering at Princeton. She is also a former president of the Association for Computing Machinery in New York, the world's largest scientific and educational computing society. Dr. Klawe is a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and a trustee for the Mathematical Sciences Research Institute at Berkeley. She was named a founding fellow of the Canadian Information Processing Society in 2006 and was elected as a fellow of the Association of Computing Machinery, ACM, in 1996. Dr. Klawe is an emeritus member of the Board of Trustees of the Anita Borg Institute for Women and Technology in Palo Alto, and a past trustee of the Institute for Pure and Applied Mathematics in Los Angeles. She's also a former member of Microsoft's board of directors and held leadership positions with the American Mathematical Society, the Computing Research Association, the Society for Industrial and Applied Mathematics, and the Canadian Mathematical Society. Dr. Klawe has received a number of honors over the years in recognition of her accomplishments. She was named a Wired Woman Pioneer, the Canadian New Media Educator of the Year, the BC Science Council Champion of the Year. She holds honorary doctorates from academic institutions across North America and is a University of Alberta Distinguished Alumna. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of Senate and the Board of Governors, it's my privilege and honor to present to you Dr. Maria Klawe, so that you may confer upon her the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
I'd like to ask Dr. Klawe to address the convocation. Thank you.
I don't think it's protocol, but I'd like to jump up and down now. So, congratulations to all of today's graduates, and thank you for the opportunity to give a convocation address to you here at Concordia. It's a special pleasure for me to be at a convocation with the recipients of computer science, engineering, and fine arts degrees, as all 3 areas have been important to me in my life. Over the last few months, I've been reflecting on what I wanted to say. The traditional role of the convocation address is to give you advice that will be useful to you as you go forward in your new lives, inspire you to do great things, and help you appreciate the education you have received. So let me start with that last one. The education you have received as students at Concordia. I did, as was already mentioned, my undergraduate and graduate studies at a large public research university the University of Alberta in Edmonton. And while I was a student, I didn't fully appreciate how much that education would shape the rest of my life. The talent and dedication of many of my professors, my opportunity to start teaching other students at the age of 18, made me determined to spend most of my career in higher education. And that experience was a big part of what eventually led me to Harvey Mudd College. I know that at Concordia, you have had many similar experiences to what I treasure in being at Harvey Mudd. Small classes, innovative approaches to teaching and research, and professors who love to work with you and help you develop your path in life. A dynamic community in one of the most interesting cities in the world. Well, actually, Montreal is way more interesting than Los Angeles. You are very fortunate to have had an education like yours. So now let me go on to try and inspire you to do great things. Until I was in my mid-30s, and I want to say I'm 1 year younger than the Chancellor. I'm 65. So he's a lot older. And I'm still a work in progress, big time. Until I was in my mid-30s, I thought that one's long-term level of achievement and impact was mostly influenced by one's ability. I was wrong. It turns out that if one wants to make progress on a really difficult problem, whether in research or in changing the world, the most important elements are, number one, pick a good problem. If you pick a lousy problem, it just really doesn't matter what you try. It's probably not going to make a big difference. Number two, persist and work hard, especially when success is doubtful. And number three, regularly evaluate your approach and be willing to rethink your strategy. And you know, one of the things I'm known for in my family is that I'm so stubborn that I will run literally at full speed into a brick wall. And you know, one day I came back from having done this and said something to my son about, you know, like, why do I always have to be the one who runs into brick walls? And he says, Mom, somebody has to do the things that other people, make the mistakes that other people can learn from. So you can learn from this. Sometimes right on the edge of that brick wall is a wide open door you could walk through if you're just willing to sort of just look a little bit around it. In most cases, it's also important to know how to build teams and alliances and be willing to ask for help. People do great things when they decide to do a great thing and stick with it. Every single one of you is capable of doing great things. And an education from a place like Concordia is one of the best preparations for a career that can help you make the world a better place. Okay, so that was your education, that was do great things, and now for the advice part. This is my favorite part. I've chosen 3 pieces of advice based on my life experiences. Number 1, pursue your passion where there is a need. This is counter to the advice from your chancellor. I just want to point that out. He said, when you discover your passion, you're going to be happy. I did not know he was going to say that. Number 2, be open to the unexpected and unwanted. And number 3, it's never too late to learn something difficult. Okay, number 1, pursue your passion where there is a need. I have had 2 lifelong passions, mathematics and painting. Actually, I have many lifelong passions: music, reading, children, cats, birds, teaching, the outdoors, and many more recent ones. But math and art have been core themes of my life since my pre-teen years. When I was doing my Ph.D., I was sure my career would be as a math professor at a Canadian university. It never happened. There were only a couple of academic openings for pure mathematicians in Canada the year I got my Ph.D. I didn't get either of them. I applied for every opening there was in pure mathematics all across Canada and the US, 83 of them. I did get an assistant professorship at a university in Michigan, Oakland University, and took it. But I hated it, mostly for lifestyle reasons. No ethnic restaurants, no foreign movies, no bookstores, no boyfriends, and no other Canadians. It was not a success. By chance, I discovered that some of the mathematicians whose whose research I respected were professors in computer science rather than math departments, and that there were tons of job openings in computer science departments. Unfortunately, I knew nothing about computer science. I decided to do a second PhD in computer science. In the fall of 1978, I started as a graduate student at the University of Toronto. My plan was to complete the course requirements in my first year and write my thesis in the second. 5 months later, I was being asked to apply for positions in computer science departments. When Toronto heard I was interviewing for positions elsewhere, they demanded that I apply to their department too. I did, and 10 months after starting to attempt to do my second PhD, I started as an assistant professor there, but in computer science. And since then, I have spent much of my research career working on math problems related to computer science. So the point of this story is, I wanted to do mathematics when the world needed computer scientists. I've ended up being both a mathematician and a computer scientist and being passionate about both disciplines. And, you know, I feel incredibly lucky that I was able to get that just extra little bit of education so that I could make that transition. So when people tell you that you might want to come back and learn a little bit more, yup, you might. What about my passion for painting? After receiving my PhD in math, I kept on painting watercolors, but hid it from everyone but my closest friends and family, until I turned 40. I thought it was hard enough to be taken seriously as a female researcher in math and CS without having people know that I was an artist too. On my 40th birthday, I came out of the closet. I framed 14 paintings, and I hung half of them in my office at UBC, and the other half at my home. Almost 20 years ago, I started painting at meetings, board meetings, conferences, workshops, because so many of them happened on weekends, and weekends were my painting time. And surprisingly, I found out that this made me a better participant at meetings because painting kept me from talking too much. In fact, I just came from a board retreat for Harvey Mudd College. The topic was one that I was fearful that I would get too emotional about, so I painted all through the retreat. It was great. Kept me quiet, and I didn't get upset. People started asking for my paintings, so I started giving paintings to people to celebrate achievements like graduating or thanking them for contributions to my favorite universities and colleges. So the part of advice I want about this is, you know, if there's something you'd love to do, but it doesn't seem to necessarily align with what you think you're going to do for your core work career, it's possible to find ways to interweave it into what you end up doing with your life. And certainly for me, painting has been wonderful. Second piece of advice, be open to the unexpected and the unwanted. The afternoon I met my husband of 36 and a half years ago, and the center of my life, Nick Pippinger, was the same day that I swore off men for all time in the morning. Okay, morning, break up with boyfriend, no more men ever. Afternoon, welcome this wonderful young man who's going to give a seminar in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Toronto. We were engaged 6 weeks later. When I was approached about the opportunity of being president at Harvey Mudd College, I was pretty sure I didn't want the job. Ditto for Dean of Engineering at Princeton, head of computer science at UBC, and joining IBM Research in San Jose. Yet each one of these unwanted opportunities ended up being one of the best choices of my life, and of course, especially marrying Nick. Okay, last piece of advice. It's never too late to learn something difficult. You're probably wondering why I would tell you this when you've just completed an intense period of learning. Even at your age, which is a lot younger than my age, there are some things most people think it's too late to learn, or at least too late to learn to be really good at it. Playing a musical instrument if you didn't start as a child, or learning abstract math if you weren't good at math in high school. Well, most people are wrong. If there's something you're interested in learning, it's never too late. It might just take you longer than people who started at a younger age. 10 years ago, I decided to learn to ride a skateboard. There are skateboards everywhere at Harvey Mudd College, and I'd always wanted to be able to ride one. Most students don't ride one before coming to Mudd, but they learn in the first week or two on campus. After 4 years of practice, I was just about at the 2-week proficiency stage of our students. But learning has had so many benefits. My balance has improved. Better still, even the shyest students like to talk to me when I'm on my skateboard. Apparently, I look like such a klutz that I become completely non-threatening to them. And yes, while learning, and still now, I wear a helmet and what seems to be about a dozen pads: knees, elbows, wrists, tailbone, hip bones. The important thing about learning something that you find particularly challenging is that it helps you to become a much better learner and an even better teacher. Our society generally advises people to focus on what comes easily to them. I think it's important to also focus on learning things that we find difficult. If you can remember these 3 pieces of advice, pursue your passion where there is a need, be open to the unexpected and unwanted, and it's never too late to learn something difficult. You will do great things. Congratulations again to all of today's graduates.
Dr. Klawe, thank you for your remarks. It's wonderful for somebody who has done great things to tell other people to do great things. So I hope we all go out there and do great things and take your advice. Thank you.